our first celebrity on the show. It's a big deal for us. You're kind of a big deal in this world.
I thought you had to say yes to everything and do more to make more money.
I don't want to see new tools because it says to me he's never used them before. Let's say that we got some newer folks tuning in today. Like, what's the playbook that you would recommend to them? Lay it out.
If you want a career that can take you as far as you want to, I would consider a trade.
Hey guys, welcome to the Dispatch, where job site legends get the mic. Join me every other Thursday as I sit down with the biggest names in the trades to find out what's really happening to keep America running. So whether you're on the road or in the garage beer in hand, settle in for a great conversation. I'm Ryan Prosser, and this is the Dispatch. Welcome back to the Dispatch. Today we're joined by Adrian Garcia, better known online as Reliable HVACR. Adrian is the owner of Reliable Kitchen Services in South Texas and host of Reliable Trades podcast. Adrian, you got a huge following online. We're super thrilled to have you here today. But for folks at home that maybe don't know your story, can you give us a little background?
Sure. I've been in the trades going on 19 years now. We have a small family business that my dad started here in South Texas. And the whole 19 years is just me, obviously in the business side of it, because it's a family business, doing all the back end stuff, kind of doing that stuff because I was good with computers, and then being his helper on that food service side, and then going to trade school for HVAC, which is what I do primarily now, the last like 15, 16 years. Because like I said, when I started, I did kind of what he did. And we've been partners ever since. And then this whole online trying to keep up with, times, today's day and age, everything's technology, everything's social media. We kind of broadened our horizon over to, different platforms. And I've been doing some social media, some podcasting, stuff like that that relates to trades, how I learned, stuff that we do at work and, everyday life.
So when you say South Texas, for the uninitiated, their mind goes to, maybe like San Antonio or Corpus, but you're down in the real South, right?
Yeah, we're over here in McAllen, Texas. Some people might know Brownsville or some of the other areas here. And since we do commercial, we kind of do a big service area. So anything from Laredo all the way to South Padre Island, that's kind of the area that we're in.
This is a bit of a departure from the questions I was planning, but I hear in the trades this repeated theme of, dad got me started in it. He got into it and he kind of opened the door to me. We hear this over and over.
It's pretty common. I've heard that a lot of times it is a family business, and it's something that I want to continue, with my kids and stuff like that. But a lot of people that get into the trades, no matter what trade it is, get into it by accident or a family member, right? They needed a job, or their dad, their uncle, somebody did it, and that's how they got into it. The trades, and that's something that I've kind of touched on as well. Like, it's not something that is presented to you in elementary, in middle school, in any of those, different levels of education. Whenever there's a career day or anything of that nature, it's usually like, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be a police officer. There's a lot of things that get presented, and you don't think, a trade, whether electrician, plumber, HVAC technician. I mean, there's tons and tons of trade jobs out there, and the big need for it is not something that people are aware of. And that was my whole thing too. Is I actually wanted to go to school for mechanical engineering, so that's what I signed up. I went to the university here locally at the time it was called Pan Am. Now it's UTRGV, and they had a mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, all that kind of stuff. And I was actually going with that. I didn't even think about it. My dad was an electrician when he started, and that's what I knew of him growing up. And then he got into food service, and that's kind of the business that he does now. But I didn't even know. I always liked fixing things, taking things apart, the electronics of different things. So that's kind of what my mind went to, is build stuff and do this whole engineering side of it. Not until my parents actually brought it to my attention. Hey, you might want to, work with your dad or help your dad. And they need an HVAC guy, and my dad doesn't do HVAC. I always have to clear that up. I first generation HVAC guy, maybe a
Got
third
it.
generation tradesperson, but he needed help on that front, and I was like, you know what? It's a good idea, right? Let's go to school. The community college here had an HVAC program, and I went to that. I really enjoyed it. It's something that was along my interest of taking things apart and fixing them and seeing how they work. And naturally, just with my own interests, the trades got me. Like I was super invested and I wanted to learn more, and then it just continued and snowballed into what it is now.
You're kind of a big deal in this world. So I've seen your podcast. I was watching one of your live streams the other day. Very well produced show, and a lot of people tune in, follow what you have to say. Talk to me about like lessons learned in terms of like I'm never signing up for that again.
Yeah.
Like the types of things that are just so big, so hairy, chaos, too much, whatever. Like where's the scar tissue?
In running a business, there's always ups and downs, right? Like when we started, I think we started too good where, we had so much work and then it just kind of went south very early on. And at that point, we were taking on too much. We were saying yes to everything. And you're a new business. You're the new company in town. You have a lot of ambition. You want to do everything. And I still to this day would rather repair something and figure it out than, sell somebody a new system or tell them to buy something new. Like let me fix it, right? I want to figure it out. That's what I love about this trade.
Mm-hmm.
But in the beginning, we were doing way too much. So now I know when to say no to a job, when to ask for help. That was a big thing that I didn't do in the beginning. And those are lessons learned because you could spend a whole day or a whole week on a job site trying to figure something out or trying to get it just right when you should have just called for help, or you should have told the customer that's a little bit more than what I can offer you. And once we kind of figure that out, that's always the weird, or that was the weird part to me is I thought you had to say yes to everything and do more to make more money. But we actually downsized back to just me and my dad. We downsized the type of work that we did. We just made sure that we, priced everything correctly because we're still not the highest bid in town, and we're closer to the cheapest than we are the most expensive. But we make so much more money now when we learn to say no and to downsize.
So I like the idea of asking for help. I think a lot of professionals at every stage in their career struggle with that. Maybe that's part of like
Yeah.
being a guy,
Yeah.
like we're not
That
going to ask for
macho. Yeah.
directions. Yeah. We're going to make up for our lack of knowledge by driving twice as fast, and wherever we're going, we're going to get there fast. But
Yeah.
talk to me about some of the struggles you're observing in other folks new to the trades. And what are your thoughts on how best to address that? Like, how do we help these guys ramp faster?
Well, for one, they have to have the drive, and the main thing is obviously learning and keeping up. And I think technology now is just moving at a pace that nobody's used to because, I never thought I'd see electronics and motherboards and all these crazy things inside a
Mm-hmm.
freezer, right? Something that just turns on and off. But it does. And I miss, I mean, I'm not going to lie, I miss those mechanical days where you could just kind of slap together some parts and make it work. And now everything goes through a motherboard because that is the brain of the whole system. But in today's day and age, I think the only problem we have with our younger techs is, getting the help that they need because, and I've seen it where nobody wants to hire because they don't have experience, right? They don't want to take a chance on a kid because he doesn't know, much. But how is he going to learn if he doesn't get that chance?
Right.
And having or finding a mentor is a big deal, I think, nowadays because there's so many. And I dealt with it too because I was like 20 when I got into this field, like 19, 20. And a lot of older techs, and it still happens to this day, like they don't want to help you. They feel like you're taking their job, or something bad is going to happen if you end up better than them. When in reality, I think we should be teaching the next generation because how much of this work do you want to do when you're older? Personally, I would like to do less work and mentor or teach and train and be valuable that way, right? And help the kids out when they need it. And I think that's always a big deal is either techs are not getting the help that they need, or they're being pushed out of the trade due to bullying or gatekeeping, or however you want to, spin it. Is the older techs are just not taking to the younger ones.
Interesting. I when I tuned into your show, and let's plug that real quick. What's the name of your show?
Reliable Trades Podcast. It used to be strictly HVAC. We've tried to broaden it to more trades because I just feel like everybody has a unique story, but those unique stories somebody relates to.
Excellent program. So, for folks at home, I tuned in. It's a live show. Kudos to Adrian for, having the courage to go live. It's it's a different type of deal, that's for sure. But let's talk a little bit about like new tech. So, I mean, just to stay with that, we're seeing this AI thing play out in the broader economy. I mean, it's just amazing to me that the best job is now, or the best major or whatever college degree for college people, what was once the best is now the worst. It's called computer programming, and just, I mean, in my lifetime, that has gone from the can't miss, must do moneymaker to total loser now. And, AI is absolutely coming for those jobs. What, and then, you see the people in the trades, maybe this was a bit of a forgotten space, and now that script has totally flipped, and they're saying this is AI proof. This is where the growth is. You can make a lot of money if you get your game tight. It might take a decade to really become excellent, but when you're there, it pays really well. You're talking about gatekeeping. You're talking about some of the older folks maybe boxing newer guys out. Let's say that we got some newer folks tuning in today. Like, what's the playbook that you would recommend to them? Lay it out, 5 steps that, world according to Adrian, hey guys, here's what you need to do. And I think one of them is don't fucking quit, stick with
Yes.
it. But lay it out step by step. What do these guys need to know?
Yeah. So like in the podcast and interviewing others, I've interviewed a lot of like 18, 19-year-olds, and I'm like, how did you get into it? Now, like we mentioned earlier, there's some that just fall into it because a family member did it, but there's quite a bit that found it on their own, and they actually just did a Google search, and what is a good career, what is a lucrative career, all that kind of stuff. So trades in general, and I'm particular to HVAC because I think that is everywhere at all times. Nobody wants to live in a hot house or a cold house, so it's always
That's
going to be
right,
there.
man. The world's getting
But
warmer too, so you're well
oh
positioned.
well, yes, we've had some hot summers in the past couple of years. So if you want a career that can take you as far as you want to, I would consider a trade. Now, when you make that decision, just understand, because the other thing I've heard is the pay. Like with anything, when I say, you start in the trade as a young teenager technician or older, I've had some that are like 50 years old asking me if it's too late, and they end up getting a nice job where they really enjoy the pay and the work. So you can
Hmm.
start when you're 19, 18, or 40 or 50, whenever it is. I've had a range of people tell me that. But the thing is, you start at the bottom. You start over, right? You're starting a career. And it even happened with us starting a business. We were the best. Like, my dad was the best technician at his other company. He made that company so much money. He got them way up here, and he won awards at that company. And when he started his own business, we start back at the bottom, right?
Hmm.
You're not entitled to anything. And that's the same thing when you get into this trade. You're not entitled to anything. Just because you made so much money at a fast food place or wherever you had your job. I took a pay cut coming from a grocery store to work for my dad. And that was my dad, right? I took a big pay cut to work for my dad because I knew it was more for my future. So once you show initiative, once you learn something and you can show your worth, the pay increases, and you can always find a company that needs that help and is willing to pay you what you think you're worth, but it's going to take a few years. So like you said, don't quit. You gotta invest in it like anything else and get that return later. And my whole thing is, as long as you keep learning, as long as you take pride in anything that you do, and I've said this before as well, it could be fortunate for you or just unfortunate for the trade. A little bit of effort goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in my field and that's in any field. A little bit of effort, because there's a lot of older techs or people there that are there before you that maybe don't take the pride. They just want to clock out. They don't take the time to learn more, after work or anything like that. That's what got me ahead was, you know, after work, pulling up a textbook. I mean, now it's all online. Just go pull up a YouTube video or something, right? But back then I had to pull up a textbook, pull up a manual. You can read a manual, you can read schematics, you can read whatever pertains to your trade in general, and just be really good at it. Things like that will skyrocket you ahead of the other techs in your field. Being able to adapt, being able to learn more, being able to, or just showing initiative, knowing what's next, knowing how your field is. If I have a helper, just knowing what tools we use, just knowing what tool we need next, what's the next step in this procedure that we're doing, like
Right.
whatever job it is. Like those are the things that I care about. And we have apprentices right now, and I am blown away because one of them came from nursing. I didn't think it was going to last. And he is running his own calls because he will ask me a ton of questions, ask the other guys, and then goes and looks it up on his own. And then the next time he goes out, he knows how to do it himself. So that's always been, those are
So
kind of the building blocks there.
I think that's a great formula. I'm gonna get this isn't a do this. This is a guys do not do this. And now this is our first time meeting, but I've met you before because I have watched your show, so I know your view on a few things. So this is something I know we strongly agree on. I'm gonna preface it by saying where I live in my corner of Montana. It's a lot of houses being built, a lot of construction. All the best builders are booked out. And I bet you're going to smile when you see where I'm going with this question. I see these contractors, plumbers, drywall guys, whatever, and dude, they're cruising around in the nicest freaking trucks you've ever
Oh,
seen, you know. And I was watching your show. I forget the name of the guy you were. In fact, I think he had a handle for a name. But it's just a couple episodes ago, and you complimented him because when he first started out, I think maybe on your advice, he got kind of like an older work van, that plain white van, and so you tell me. But I think it's like, guys, if you're listening at home and you're just getting started, whatever age you're at, for God's sake, do not finance a new truck or whatever,
no.
buy a new truck. Like, start with something busted and old. Am I right or what? What's your position on
That
this?
that is a great point. And I actually just interviewed somebody that is 19, and instead of buying a BMW, he went and bought a work van because he's like, I'm investing in my future right now. So a 19-year-old kid going out to buy a work van for his future company, that blew me away. But what I typically tell people, and I kind of see some guys because locally and online on social media, there is another side of things where people are like, there's advice going around, you get into the trades because you'll get rich quick. And that's just not true. That's why I say
Mm-hmm.
you start at the bottom, right? You got to work your way up. So don't get into the trade and then go buy a brand new truck, a brand new van without any customers, without any revenue coming in, right? That you don't know what
Right,
you're going to
right.
make.
Yeah.
And you don't know the losses you're going to take. There's overhead, there's insurance, there's, if you have employees, that's a whole other thing. There's taxes, there's everything that goes into it. So yeah, we started with an old pickup truck. I remember working on the weekends with my dad. It was a crappy blue Chevy pickup truck. I remember it vividly. And that's what we worked out of. And then we would buy, older vans when we had some extra money. And we still kind of take that into consideration today. We don't buy new. We buy everything
Yeah.
cash, and
Mm-hmm.
it's an older van that is already outfitted. If you go buy a new van, it's empty. You don't understand how much that just the shelving in there costs. You might not think about that because you're so used to working somewhere that just provides it for you. It's a lot of money, and it's a lot of it's financed. You're going to be paying for it for a long time. And what if you outgrow that van? What if you change your mind about that vehicle? So, work out of whatever you can in the meantime and don't buy, brand new high
Right.
dollar items. And I say that also for tools. I use a lot of hand me down tools when I started, and it took us a long time to actually start buying our own equipment. I mean, that helped us out in the beginning too.
Yeah, I mean, listen. I've been a CEO for a long time, and I'll say, two things on this. Mostly as the guy writing checks to folks like yourself. Number one, if I see somebody in a Ford F-250, F-350 that still has the nubs on the tires because it's so brand new, I'm thinking to myself, if he's making this bad as decisions for his own business, think about the bad decisions he's going to make for my business, you
Yeah.
know. And number two, I don't want to see new tools because it says to me he's never used them before.
Yeah,
I
we
want
get
to
that.
see tools that look 20 years old. This guy knows everything about what he's about to do. So,
That's the first
I
thing
think
people look
people,
at. The
it
tools, how
is
clean are they?
totally like I think that the young bucks sometimes, they lose sight of the fact that optics matter a lot. And when we're the person that's about to write the check, we're thinking to ourselves, does this guy know what he's doing? You know,
Well, there
and
is there is two sides to that because you start however you need to start, right? You whatever you can afford, right? Your quality of work will always speak louder than, some of that stuff. But I tell people too, like once you start getting money, once you start getting a nice income and revenue, you can start upgrading. So,
that's right.
there's a slow uphill process to that. And sometimes you do have to look the part. So I will say when you do decide to get a proper van or truck or whatever it is, make sure it's in good shape and wrap it or letter it, whatever you want to do with it, and make sure it's clean. I've gotten
Yeah.
after so many employees of mine, and I used to be that employee when I was like 20 years old, right? My van was a mess. Customers will see that, and that's like you said, you're writing the checkout to whatever service company you call out, and you want to make sure it might not be the nicest van or truck, but is it clean? Is it well kept? How is the presentation overall? That's something you have to take into consideration as well.
Talk to me about you know from the techs in your kind of orbit that you talk to around the country through your show and maybe your personal group there. Like, what are some of the things you're hearing about most often in terms of complaints? Whether it be customer facing issues or dealing with their peers, or maybe it's the space itself, like getting paid promptly, whatever the case may be. Like, what are some of the common issues you just hear over and over?
What I've learned as running a business is, it goes both ways. So if I have a customer that's being difficult, if they're causing me headaches, questioning every little thing, disputing invoices when you have everything laid out, like you're not trying to take advantage of them. Those are the kind of complaints that we get or that I hear as business owners, and dealing with it myself too. That goes back to my point of knowing when to say no or knowing when to kind of walk away from something. So as a business owner, you do have to. I think we're lucky that we can pick and choose now because I've turned down so much work versus the customers that we have right now. Like I know that they're good customers, and
Let me interject real quick. When you're
yeah,
turning down work but you want to be polite, what
yes.
is your go-to, like, I am saying this to get out of having to do your job? Like, what's your go-to, that you lean on a lot?
So I mean, you can't just literally walk out. You can't just like storm off or
Right, right,
the other one I've heard of is like I'm gonna go take the parts that I put in and take them out. I think that's illegal for one, but you can't do anything that would damage you or your company. So that's another thing, right? Is as a
Got to
technician
protect the
or
brand.
an employee, you still have to protect your business, your company that you work for. As a business owner, I'm still in the field, so I think both ways. But if something's going on, and I am first and foremost, I'm gonna try, right? I'm gonna try to please the customer. I'm gonna try my best to do my job to the best of my ability, and I'm going to give it an attempt. If they're being difficult, you kind of have to have a little bit of a tough skin, let it roll off. The
Hmm.
last thing you want to do is get in a yelling match with a customer because that's going to hurt your reputation or your company's reputation. There's
Sure.
no benefit of you, except for your own satisfaction of yelling at a
In that
customer. There's
moment,
no
sure.
other real benefit to doing that, right? So keep your calm, stay collective, and just try to do your job.
So give me, but I'm gonna press you again. Give me, I know that you have a specific one. So let's just, I'll give you a for instance. And so you come in, I've got a restaurant, it's a new build, whatever, and or maybe it's an old one. I'm looking for a new HVAC guy to help us out. You come in, there's red flags all over. You could tell I'm difficult to deal with. I'm going to be one of those guys you got to chase for payment. Whatever the case is, red flags are there. You've been in the space long enough to know them. And you're saying to yourself, I got 3 other places I need to be right now. What is your do you start coughing and be like, listen, I got COVID, let me circle back in a week? Like, what's your go-to to politely, quickly get out of there and never return?
Man, we have a few, I guess, defense mechanisms that we have in the trade, right?
All right,
So
here
the
we go,
one,
folks. Dial in,
the
turn up the
the
radio.
one, the one and funniest one that we always talk about is the F off price, right? So you go in there
Yes.
now.
Yes.
I'm still just because the way that I was kind of brought in under my dad, like I'm used to uncomfortable situations and I never liked it, but my dad would always be like, you need to handle it. You need to handle yourself. And he would leave me alone on job sites as a 20-year-old, not knowing what the hell I'm doing to deal with a difficult customer. And I had to learn from him how to deal with those. So a lot of times we try to diffuse the situation. So if they're being difficult, you try to diffuse it. You try to play to their personality. There's a few different ways to go about it. But if I genuinely don't want to do the work, I'm going to assess it. I'm still going to look at it. I'm still going to assess it. I'm still going to look around. Like I said earlier, if I know they don't pay, then I'm just trying to get out of there. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I'm not the company for you. I'm out.
Right.
But if I go there and I tell them, look, I don't want to have that reputation as somebody that just doesn't want to work on anything.
Sure.
Word gets around super quick. So if I go there and they're being difficult, I may tell them this will cost a little bit in my head extra just to make it worth the inconvenience of them harassing us or making us stay late or whatever it is. So that we've joked around a lot that there is an F off price, and if they
Definitely.
take it, hey, it's worth it, right at that point, because they're gonna have to pay it, and you're gonna do the job that you can do, and it might be a difficult environment to do it in, but that's why we're charging a little bit extra. Now that's just taking into consideration. It may take us a little bit longer. It might take us whatever because this customer is always going to be right there over your shoulder asking questions. Like there's plenty of different situations where that I think is justified, and that's one of our most used tactic, I guess. And typically, if either it's got to be worth it to deal with that and maybe take a little bit longer, or we just walk away and
Uh,
we just tell them we'll be back, we'll give you a quote, whatever it is. If I don't want to be there, like I'll just tell them like we'll do it on, we'll send you an email and then I'll get out of there.
Right, right. So we've been kind of directly addressing text today. I'll just say, to the business owners out there, there definitely is an a-hole tax, and you hear a lot
There's
about nice
different
guys
word
finish
way to
last.
word it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. But like what nobody talks about is that actually maybe nice guys finish last, maybe they don't, but definitely your business is paying a price if you treat people poorly, and that's a known thing. It's just a fact, And we're talking about it with HVAC. I guarantee you, other vendors are viewing it the same, and
Look,
that your business is being taxed because you're difficult to deal with.
and there's different ways to think about it, right? I never want to think any of my customers that, or I don't want them to think that I'm trying to screw them over purposely. There are reasons why we charge, a little bit extra because, it's like I said, it might take more time if you're haggling us the whole time that we're there. So yes, it does cost more because there's instances where, if we have a customer that is great on time payment, they trust us with everything, they don't question. It's either a yes or a no for whatever we ask. Like if it needs this part, that part, whatever it is, those are the best. And those, I don't want to say that I overcharge the bad customers. I might help out the good customers. I might shave off an
You
hour of
solve it for
labor.
people you like.
Yeah, and I might do a free trip here and there. I might do follow-ups for free, whatever it is to make sure that they feel comfortable with the work that we've done.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to harp on too much of the negative, like with the bad customers. We try to help out the good customers and kind of cut the cost down for them when we can because they pay so much and they pay on time. And with other customers, they might call a bunch of companies, and I have to take that into account too, right? If I have a customer that is loyal to us, I know the history, I know what I can do there. When I have a customer, because I have a few right now that call the cheapest one and they call like all three of us and sometimes we all show up at the same time, that's an inconvenience to me because I just went out there for nothing.
Right.
Those I'm going to price a little bit stricter because I know there's a possibility that somebody else is going to be working on it, somebody else did something else to it, somebody else, I might go out there for a trip for nothing. Like there's different little things that add up to that little tax that we put on there.
Yep. So, you mentioned a few minutes ago that, occasionally you go to a restaurant, you got some hecklers in there, some boo birds maybe, and,
It's
I
always the
can't,
people I never understand because I'm like, you're not the owner, you're not paying for it, but they
yeah.
love to mess with you.
And it's like, bro, you're in South Texas, one of the hottest places in the United States. This guy is making sure you and your business don't overheat. Like this person should be Superman to you. And that really is the question I wanted to ask you is for most of America, I think most of the Western world, and I'm talking this question is for you, but I'm talking to the aspiring tradespeople out there or the folks already out there doing the thing on the front line. You guys are Superman. When you show up, you are generally viewed by us. I am putting myself in this camp, the guy writing the check and so forth, as Superman, saving the day, doing the big heroic thing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My question is, and I'd love to close with this. Okay, so you're talking earlier. You were talking to folks considering the trades or getting started in it. You said, guys, you're not going to get rich quick. You got to put in your time. This is something that maybe they could, glean like the ability to save someone's day comes as soon as you have the skills to do it. Can you give us an example of a time recently you've saved the day and said to yourself, this is why I do this?
That happens pretty often just with the kind of equipment that we see. So just yesterday, I have a new customer that called us and, they have a lot of equipment. Like it's a big, and it's one of those sushi restaurants, right? They have a lot of critical equipment for that kind of, that food that they provide. So he called us out and it was the end of the day and I'm trying to make a good impression and one of the things that I've told specifically my field is, make sure your van is clean and stocked. So I was able to help him out because I had a part on the van that I keep in stock and that's always something that's like a pet peeve of mine is, at least in my field is having the proper tools and parts on your van because at the end of the day, that those are always the hardest calls. At the end of the day, when no supply house is open, and even to get one open, there's a big fee on that, and having to track someone down and all that kind of stuff. So having that part on stock in my van, and I put it in for him, and I helped him out at like 5 o'clock. He was super grateful, super thankful for that, and that's just one of the things that we do to try to be ready because like my dad named his company Reliable Kitchen Services, and I thought it was the dumbest name ever when we started. And I was like, why couldn't we have a cool name? But a lot of our customers would always point out, like, hey, you guys live up to your name. You guys are reliable. You always do these quick repairs. You're always here in a promptly manner, and you guys have the parts that you need, and you get us going relatively quickly. So that's always a great feeling, just helping out the customer and being able to. So I'm particular to like service technicians. You gotta be creative. You gotta think outside the box sometimes. And there's been countless times where another company couldn't fix something, or I get there and it's like a major problem, and it's like give me a few minutes to figure it out, and we'll get you going. So that's one thing too. Is just you know adapt to it, be creative, always be on your. I like to be under pressure, so that's just my thing, and figure things out. But um, just going above and beyond to help those customers. And that's why it's important for, for it to go both ways. You need great service technicians or companies that treat the customer well, and you need customers that treat their service people well, because they're going to go above and beyond to help you out.
Cool, man. Well, Adrian, I think that's a great place to stop. Thanks so much for being on the Dispatch today.
Hey, it was a good time. I was super excited to do this, and it was fun.
And thank you for listening. Join us next time as we meet with another frontline tradesman out there doing the hero thing. Thanks for listening to the Dispatch. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with a friend in the field.